Hello and welcome to the Five Church Trail Guided Tour Training Pack. By the end of this presentation you'll have some of the tools to start thinking about devising your own face-to-face guided tour. All the facts and information you need for your tour have been produced and will help you to work out what you want to say. There's a special pack for each of the 5 churches in the benefice. We'll look at the process of giving a guided tour and not the content. That's for you to decide. You need to make the tour your own, and that way it'll mean more to you and you'll be able to deliver a more natural, interesting tour. Hopefully you'll feel confident to deliver a tour. It's not always easy to take a group of people around a church, giving facts and telling stories along the way. But once you've done it, you'll see it can be fun, and your participants will have had a great experience and learned something along the way. Share your tours and ideas with other tour guides, and they'll have ideas worth sharing too. Maybe you can make a shared folder in which you could pop any ideas or additional resources you might have acquired. There's no one way of giving a face-to-face tour, so don't think you have to give it in a certain way. Think of some of the good tours you've been on yourself. And also think of those tours that perhaps weren't so good. What made them different to the good ones? You don't have to talk about everything connected with the church. There's a lot, in fact far too much, to deliver on a single tour. Think about what you're particularly interested in about the church, and the chances are that if you're enthusiastic about certain things, your group will be too. We use the term interpretation in connection with heritage sites, but what does it mean? Heritage interpretation refers to all the ways in which information is communicated to visitors to an educational, natural or recreational site, such as a museum, park or science centre. More specifically, it's the communication of information about or the explanation of the nature, origin and purpose of historical, natural or cultural resources, objects, sites and phenomena, using personal or non-personal methods. Quite a mouthful, but essentially people remember stories more than facts. It's about learning for everybody, and we want to provoke thoughts and questions. We need and want people to be involved and engaged with heritage. Guided tours are face-to-face interpretation. There are different types or styles of guides, and you've probably come across most of them. Let's take a look at each one in turn. The robot delivers the same tour with the same stops and the same patter. Nothing wrong with that, of course, but it can stifle any spontaneity. However, it may be exactly what you need to do, at least initially, and that's fine. Do try and fit in a little flexibility. Your group will ask questions, so be prepared to move away from your script and address their queries. Also, if you have the same people coming back for a second tour, they might want something different. The policeman keeps the tour participants well in check. Don't sit there, don't touch that, and so on. They can be a little aloof and dictatorial. Whilst we don't want the church damaged, it's important that people feel free to touch objects and go everywhere in the church. If you don't want an object touched, don't leave it out. The know-it-all bombards the tour participants with facts, figures and endless stories. All fine, but put yourself in the shoes of the group. Too many facts and figures can be a bit of an onslaught to the brain. Facts and figures are fine, but limit them. Unless someone asks, of course. You may very well have a group of academics, in which case they might delight in a torrent of information. It's all about knowing your audience. The host is just that, welcoming people into the space and having a conversation with them. You talk a little, they talk a little, and you all feel relaxed, just like you would do if you had people coming into your home. Of course, you're likely to be a combination, to varying degrees, of all these styles, which is exactly what you should be. Have a go, find out what works best for you, and do that. or change from tour to tour. It's fine. Maybe you could go on some tours in other places, see what they do, pick up a few ideas from others who've had more experience. Now, about the audience. You have no control who will be in a particular group, and they'll be different each time. The group could be mixed with young children, adults, academics, anyone really. People will have a variety of interests and will ask you questions if you've not covered it on the tour. Be prepared to answer if you can. People will also have different levels of knowledge. Some will want to know basic information, whilst others will want to know more. You must be flexible, but also don't be flustered by thinking you have to change your tour or indeed answer all their questions. Just be yourself. There's no tour guide persona you need to adopt. Show your enthusiasm. If you're interested in something, your group will pick it up. Smile. You may be nervous inside, but your participants may well be too. A smile really helps everyone. And listen to what they have to say. They may give you a good story or some information that you didn't have before. Make it a two-way experience. Talk to them and let them talk to you and each other. As we've said before, you're not expected, nor should you try, to say everything about the church. It'll be too much. Think about what you want to cover. Think about what you know most about and what you're most interested in. Other tour guides will deliver different tours. That's good for your visitors. You may wish to extend your knowledge and so devise a tour about something you don't quite know so much about. It's entirely up to you. Just give it a go. And now we come to the actual tour. Let the group know how long the tour will be. No one wants to join a tour they're expecting to be quite short, only to still be there an hour and a half later. Tell them where the toilet is, if you have one. They might be too timid to actually ask. I would say keep your tour between 20 and 30 minutes. In my opinion, 20 is plenty. Tell people they can touch things in the church unless there are some things you don't want them to touch. Either put those objects away or just ask them not to touch them. Encourage people to have a really good look around. That's what they're here for after all. And they might want a bit of time at the end of the tour to do just that. Encourage questions, but don't think you have to answer them all. Admit it if you don't know the answer, or maybe suggest they look in the guidebook. Feel free to look in the guidebook yourself as well. Prepare different tours if you can. It'll maintain your interest and benefit anyone who comes back for a second tour. At the end of the tour, it's fine to suggest that the group may wish to make a donation. They'll probably want to. Encourage them to take a guidebook, have a go at the church detective booklet, and maybe have a look at the films on the VBox. You have a number of resources in each church that will help you to devise a tour. The guidebooks have information about the church history and the various areas. You might want to read through the church detective booklet, as it'll give you some ideas for questions to ask, particularly of children. Take a look at the films on the VBox to familiarise yourself with them in case people ask what they're about. And encourage them to give it a go once they've finished the tour. The VBox allows visitors to watch short films on their smartphones. Logging onto the VBox can be very easy, but some Android phone owners might have one or two issues. But there is a flyer which has detailed instructions on how to overcome these. Here's a short film explaining the VBox, followed by one of the films from St Mary's Church in Kinnerley. Kenealy Church was the mother church of all the churches south of Oswestry and may have been so from the 6th century. The church was originally in the Diocese of St Asaph, which is a diocese in North East Wales, named after St Asaph, its second bishop. When the diocese separated from the Church of England in 1920, St Mary's became part of the Diocese of Lichfield. St Mary's imposing red sandstone dominates the landscape, with its towers at the centre of the village, like a fortress. The oldest part are the lower 2/3 of the tower, which is perpendicular Gothic, developed in England in the later Middle Ages, and this is all that remains of the original church. In 1768, the condition of the old church was given much cause for concern. In January 1773, it was decided to rebuild the church for the sum of £639. A note in the parish register reads, "The taking down of the old church was begun on the first day of the month." Services were resumed in the church on the 17th of July 1774. The architect for the new church was Thomas Farnells Pritchard, who is better known for being the architect of the world-famous Iron Bridge in the Severn Gorge. The tower was restored in 1862 and the church restored from 1887 to 1890, when the porch was added. The body of the church as we see it now is Georgian. It consists of a broad nave and an aspidal chancel. In other words, there is a rectangular section of chancel, but it has an apse or rounded extension added to it. This is interesting as it conforms to the architecture of the earliest Christian churches and is a nod to that past. The apse has a magnificent painted reredos, flanked by 2 fine stained glass windows, depicting the Annunciation and the Nativity. St Mary's Church is a busy and vibrant place, working in conjunction with the other 4 churches that form the 5-church trail. Well, here we are, all done. So what are the next steps? Think about what kind of tour you'd like to start with. Work with someone else to devise it if you need to, or just ask somebody for some help. Try your tour on your own a few times. It's surprising how doing this will really help the words you use and how you deliver it. Try it with friends and family, ask them for honest feedback, and change your tour if needed. Make simple notes, maybe on cue cards. It's fine to carry them around. You don't have to keep everything in your head. I hope these few hints and tips have given you some ideas and the enthusiasm to try devising and giving a face-to-face guided tour. Try it. You just might like it.